All right, let me fix my shirt. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting issue of Ask Me Anything. What is this? This is the first day of December. Election is tomorrow, and I am going to push this back ever so slightly. Maybe if it'll go. There we go. That's better. Does that look good? I like it. So, I actually did not get a single question this week, so I guess I've been doing a good job of answering everything. I will look at the comments just in case somebody pops in and wants to ask anything while we're doing this. In the meantime, what I can do, let me make sure I can do this. Is that going to mess it up? It sure isn't. Good deal. Let's talk about not really questions per se, but there's certainly comments. We got a couple comments in here. These aren't necessarily last week, but if you saw my video this morning, this is the day before election, and I don't know about you, but my Facebook, X, Instagram, well, I mean, on Instagram, I don't go on Instagram very much. I'm kind of an Instagram dummy, to be perfectly honest, but certainly on X and Facebook, the feeds are full of Republicans that are pushing really, really, really hard to get out the vote and vote red. Make sure we do not let this election go to the commie Afton, because that'll be the end of the world. And I don't know if you remember, but that was pretty much the exact same message last year. Don't vote for, who would have been, Kamala, or it's going to be the end of the world. And let's see, 2020, don't vote for Biden, or it's going to be the end of the world. 2016, don't vote for Clinton. It'll be the end of the world. And vice versa. The Democrats were doing the exact same thing. Don't vote for Trump. Don't vote for, gosh, he's been running for so long, I can't remember anybody else that was running. In any way, the whole point is that we're always led with this fear tactic of, if you don't vote for your particular party, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, doesn't matter, it's going to be quite possibly the end of the republic as we've been experiencing it and have come to love for so long, which is just pure cockamamie. You know, the two parties, the Republicans and Democrats, and I've been saying this for a long time, have been in power collectively for almost the last 170 years. It's been 169. Next year is going to be 170 years. And Democrats even longer than that. This was since the creation of the Republican Party. And so look where we're at. They've had a majority the entire time. And what we have today is entirely responsible by them and only them. There has never been a different party with any presence whatsoever beyond an individual or two. So 100% of what we have today is entirely on the shoulders of those two parties. So if you like where we're at, folks, keep voting the way we've been doing it, because I can guarantee you we're just going to have more of the same. But if you want to have maybe a shot of doing something different, if you're sick to death of the argumentation, of the constant bickering and inability to solve any problems whatsoever, and not even solve problems, it's that they can't even agree on what the problems are. Because you can't begin to discuss a solution before you agree on the problem. So here we are. And then add insult to injury, both parties have had supermajorities at least a couple times. There have been 6 supermajorities in the last 40 years, meaning that one party or the other held a majority or the office in all 3 branches simultaneously. So, they like to point fingers because all of the solutions to the problems that we have are going to require what they consider to be political suicide. And stepping back just a minute, all the problems that we have, for the most part, have been either exacerbated or caused by the two parties. It's not to say that we would be in a utopia if we just got rid of them, but the fact that they can't talk they can't have reasonable discussions is a really big one. So in any case, here we are. We're the day before the election, and let's go through just a couple of emails that I got. First one says, if we get a liberal leftist elected, it is because you are diluting the conservative vote. Ross Perot gave us the Clintons. Teddy Roosevelt gave us Wilson. Nick Bejic, don't know who that is, ran against Palin and Peltola. Don't know who that is either. Giving us the Dem. Drop out. For the sake of the country, you can't win. Kind of sounds exactly like I just said. The same old. Let's see here. We got one more exciting one. You do know that with a race so close and you with no possibility of winning, if the Republicans lose the seat because of you remaining on the ticket, you will be blamed for Tennessee AOC winning. So it's all fear tactics. It's all the same narrative over and over and over. We're fear. It's literally what my damn yard sign says. Vote for the lesser of two evils. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick of it. And that is entirely why I haven't voted in so long, because of this crap right here. It's not true. Neither party has a monopoly or a ownership on you, the voters. You can vote any damn well, any way you please, and it's not up to them. And them trying to use fear and force to tell you how to vote is atrocious and needs to stop. And only you can determine whether or not you're going to do that. And check it out. There's, as of yesterday or this morning when I checked, there's 80-something thousand votes so far, which means we're about 100,000 votes less than the last midterm, which suggests to me anyway that there are a lot of people that are sitting at home not voting because A, they don't like either candidate, see what I did there? Either candidate. B, they don't know that there's an election. C, they don't care that there's an election. Or D, they're not really motivated to choose anybody, including myself, and that's fine. But regardless of any of those choices that you take, there is no fixed pie. It's the fixed pie fallacy. It's not that these are the entire votes, and if I cut this little slice, it only leaves a little bit less for the rest of the guys. It's not how it works. There's an adjusting number of people. Some people may just sit at home and not vote for anybody, and then they say, hey, I like that Jon Thorp guy. Instead of sitting on my butt watching TV, I'm going to actually go in and vote today or tomorrow or, whatever. So it's a fallacy. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And let's really work on getting a return to community. We have to start focusing on communities where things really are important, and where we set the stage on changing the direction of this country. It can't be a top-down movement. We have to drive it from the bottom up. This has to start with the voters. It has to start with our local communities, with you, everybody at home. And I see a couple of people on there. I'd really like to have some questions rather than just talk ad nauseum. Let's see. We had a couple more. Let's see here. Let's also talk about real quick what else has been in the news. And people in my position, I would say, would not touch with the 10-foot pole, because think about it. We've got multiple candidates running for this race right now, and at least one of them, probably two in many respects, do not want to show up to a debate stage because at that point you are you're shooting from the hip. Basically, you don't have the ability to just record these pre-scripted videos of saying whatever party line you've been given or whatever you've been told to say, and you have to kind of come up with it on the spot, which makes some people really nervous because a politician saying, well, I don't know the answer to that, is for whatever reason sacrosanct, and people don't want to admit, especially if they're running for office, they don't want to admit that they don't know the answer to a particular question, which is ridiculous because nobody knows everything. That's the whole point of having advisors and experts in fields, is because no one person can know everything. It's impossible. That's one of the reasons, arguably, why a lot of people are nervous about AI, because it can simultaneously be an expert in every field. So it has the potential of pushing some people out of certain fields, and that's scary, to be perfectly honest. So in any case, I would love to see a debate. It's not going to happen. Voting's tomorrow. I'd love to see another one next year, but in all likelihood, it won't happen. And speaking of next year, hey, let's talk about the horse in the room, the elephant in the room. It is a foregone conclusion, as those emails pointed out, that I'm not going to win, and I get that. I am up to this point, I was a nobody, a non-entity. I have no name recognition. This is a great big popularity contest, really. It's what politics is. And so he who has the biggest bank account generally wins, because they can plaster their name all over the place. It almost never has to do with the actual policy stances or the ideas that a person has. It's about how far they can get their message and how badly they can make their opponents look to the public, which is why we have an endless stream of attack ads. It's always slinging mud, because you want to make the other guy look bad, versus you try to do anything to stand out from the crowd and say, well, vote for me because of these reasons. And so I hope you guys all had a great Thanksgiving, spent it with friends and family, and you weren't bickering and arguing and making things unbearable for other people, or they for you, because again, I think oftentimes we're missing what truly matters, and that is your neighbors. That's the community. And I went and visited family over Thanksgiving, and we have a massive, massive family. My mom was one of 9 kids, and almost every single one of them had kids of their own. So get-togethers have always been enormous. I think this one had 50 plus people at it. So, we always have conversations, and you can disagree, even sometimes vehemently, with other people, but that doesn't mean that they're your enemy or that they're any less of a human than you are. And so we had some great discussions, and I was able to kind of articulate a little bit where I was coming from. And one of my relatives said, hey, part of the reason why, and I agree with this part, part of the reason why we have parties is because you instantaneously, more or less, at least that's the theory, you instantaneously know more or less if you agree with a person based on their party. So if you're Republican, you're going to agree with whatever these sorts of tenets. And if you're a Democrat, you're going to agree with these. And so you can immediately have a little bit of common thread with somebody that you're going to potentially support. With an independent, you just don't know. And I get that. And that's been something that I've been wrestling with. And so I think, at least initially, the goal has to be to change the system, because literally nothing is going to get changed until we change the system. But I totally understand that people need to know there almost needs to be a tribe behind the independent movement, which is a little nonsensical because they're a contradiction of terms. So I have stated many times, I consider myself a somewhat strict constitutionalist. And I would say I probably have, in general, a little bit of a lean towards the conservative side, at least where it comes to government and economics, and with personal liberty. Although, well, let's just start with this. My claim is that the Republican Party, at least historically, has, among other things, three primary planks, and that would be limited government, fiscal responsibility, and individual liberty. They stand for those things. If you agree with those, and you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, that's what I agree. That's what I believe in. I think the government should be as restricted as possible as per the Constitution. It very clearly states it's the powers of the federal government are enumerated, which means they are stated specifically. And the 10th Amendment says very, very clearly that if a power has not been granted to the federal government, then it simply does not have it. It's been reserved to the people or the states thereof. And they're referencing some other amendments in there. And so that's what I have always thought the Republican Party stood for. But you look at what the Republican Party has done over the years, and they don't do that. They are absolutely not in favor of a limited government. They've been bloating it and expanding it for on and on and on and on. Fiscal responsibility, neither party even comes close. We're looking at 2 trillion deficits versus 2.5 to 3 trillion deficits, depending on if you want a Democrat or a Republican in favor. Neither one of those, nobody. We're almost $40 trillion in debt, folks. This is ridiculous. They're clowns when it comes to the budget. And then individual liberty. That's where I think it almost trends a little bit more towards the Democrat side, because I feel like they're a little bit more lenient or aware of the fact that the Constitution doesn't really give the government any leeway into controlling individual behavior. And so if it's peaceful, if it doesn't harm anybody else, by gum, that's your prerogative. Go do it. Let's see. I got a couple comments over here. Ben Thorp. Any relation to me? That's cool. Are you in Tennessee? I didn't know there were any Thorpes in Tennessee, or really anywhere. Actually, it's kind of funny. There's another guy named Jonathan Thorpe that's a doctor, and I get his emails all the time because his name is spelled ever so slightly different than mine, and so they mess up his spelling, and I get it, and we're kind of like pen pals now because we go back and forth. I don't know why I just shared that, but it's funny to me. Let's see. Speak a bit about your view on the 10th Amendment. Oh, yeah, I just did. Did you miss it, Rosa? Oh, you just nailed it. And I'll certainly go into that more if you want. The 10th Amendment, well, let's bring it up. Which I should have brought my pocket. Normally I have a pocket Constitution with me everywhere I go because even though it's small, it's easy to forget some of the things sometimes. Constitution. And we'll read it verbatim. All right, let's see here. Constitution. First 10 amendments, aka the Bill of Rights. That is not where I want to be, guys. Where is the Constitution? Right there. Oh my gosh. It's literally a picture of the Constitution. Isn't it on like usconstitution.com or something? Senate. Here it is. All right, amendments. 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. One single sentence, very powerful, often overlooked. So, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. If you remember that the Declaration says that governments are instituted by men for the purpose of various things like the protection of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, as they put it. And they derive their powers from the people. And in this case, a constitution, all constitutions, the U.S. Constitution, I'm kind of looking over there, by the way, because I'm trying to look at myself for some reason instead of the camera. It's a little bit weird for me to talk to the camera instead of a person. I should put a picture of a person over my camera. All constitutions are specific contracts that delegate or grant specific powers to the government by generally the people. And so ours have in the different sections here articles, rather, they'll have the exact powers. So if we go back up a little bit, Article 1, for example, talks about legislative. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress. In other words, Congress, which is the legislative branch, has the following powers. That's it. If it's not listed, Congress doesn't have it. Maybe the executive branch has it. Let's go look. Where's Article 2? Article 2. The executive power shall be vested in a president. Here are all of his. Let's see, we go down to talk about how he got to be a citizen. The president shall be commander-in-chief of the army, blah, 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 all these. So it very specifically lays out what powers they have and what powers they do not have. And so we go back down, the powers not delegated. So if it's not listed, sorry, I'm looking at my picture again. If they're not listed in the Constitution, then it says, nor prohibited by it to the states. In other words, there are some powers that are prohibited from the states from having, are reserved to the states or to the people. So there was a lot of contention about even including a Bill of Rights, because as soon as you go down listing what rights a person supposedly has, and that's a common misconception, is that the Bill of Rights grants rights to people, and that's not what happens. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But as soon as you start going down that list and saying, here are the things that the citizens are permitted to do, then people will say, well, it doesn't say anything about this, so that means the people don't have that right. And so that's why they threw in, and actually, let's go back to the Ninth Amendment real quick. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people, which is old speak for if it's not listed, it doesn't mean the people don't have it, because people have, by the rights of the Creator itself. Let's see, go back to the Declaration for the endowed by the rights of God. I don't remember how it said. You have to look in there. People have all the rights, and they are, per this contract, delegating certain rights to the Constitution or to the government. So that's all they're saying. Hopefully I answered that for you, Rosa. Maybe I went in a little bit too hard or too far. I get carried away sometimes. Let's see, where was I about to go? Oh, so there's another thing. Again, candidates, they don't want to go down and talk about things in nuance, because as soon as you go into nuance, by definition, you're going to start disagreeing with people. Nobody should ever agree 100% with anybody, period. If you agree with 100% of what I have to say, you probably need to do a little bit of introspection and look really closely at what you truly believe, because you might just be a little bit susceptible to bias or to persuasion. And I would argue that goes the same for any party and any platform. You should always be really, really, really careful about just going all in and saying, oh yeah, that's coming from John Smith, and I agree with everything that John Smith says, so I agree with it too, without first looking into it and trying to do your due diligence, so to speak. I personally like to play devil's advocate with myself. Just if I think A is the right answer, I will try to steelman option B as much as I can, because if you can't articulate and do at least some good service to platforming an opposite idea, then I don't know that you really truly know the position. So in any case, people are going to avoid, and by people I mean candidates, they're going to avoid a number of conversations with, this one, 10th Amendment, for example, unless you're a libertarian. Libertarians love the 10th Amendment. But there's been a lot of news lately about Venezuela and the narco terrorist boats, or whatever, however they've been labeled. And this, I've gotten a ton of flack on this, and this is how wars start. And the fact that they've got a massive buildup, it would not surprise me in the least to see a full-scale war break out between the U.S. and Venezuela within next couple of weeks, definitely before the end of the year. And I guarantee you, Trump will just initiate it himself. No declaration of war or authorization needed by Congress, because, Biden did it, and Obama did it, and Clinton did it. So there you go. It's fine. Bush did it. Bush W did it. Reagan did it. They all break the Constitution, so I can break the Constitution too. Going back again, the 10th Amendment says the powers are delegated. They are very specific about who has war powers, and that is Congress, period. Now, the president does, I even read that part. The president is the commander-in-chief of the military, but that only gives him the ability to control it once a war has been declared. There are certain circumstances that have been pointed out and maybe made clarified, if you will, with the War Powers Act. What was that, back in the 80s or so? 70s, 80s? I don't remember when that was. But anyway, the War Powers Act points out that the president, and this is oftentimes misquoted too, a lot of people will say the president can engage troops and has 30 to 90 days or something like that to tell. He has 72 hours to tell Congress, and then they can keep him there for 90 days. No, it's not true at all. It says that the president can activate troops in an instance of imminent invasion or to repel an invasion. And I don't remember the exact. We could probably look that up too. In any case, narco boats that can't even reach the United States are not an imminent invasion and do not qualify under the War Powers Act. And no authorization for military action has been given by Congress. So it's no different than Iraq, than Afghanistan, than any of these. Syria, you name it. We've just been, for decades, even Vietnam was never declared. I don't think we've declared war since World War II. And we've been at war pretty much every year, with exception to 3 since World War II. Maybe not even that many. So we need some representatives in Congress that are not beholden to the power. They are not to the parties, rather. They're not going to be afraid to push back on anybody, regardless of power or of party, and just say, hey, if we're going to be a nation of rules, or of laws, then we have to follow them. And if they're not good laws, then we have to change them. That's the only way that we can have a society that works for everybody. Because Lady Liberty is blindfolded with scales for a reason. The laws are supposed to be applied equally to everybody, regardless of situation, regardless of circumstance. And the scales are representing the evidence. We're not going to determine someone's guilt based on things other than other than the evidence that's presented. So we've got to do a better job of kicking these idiots out of Congress and have some people up there that are going to truly represent the interests of the United States. And by the United States, I mean the people, not the powers that be. Let's see here. We've got Sam. Hey, Sam, thanks for tuning in. As a vet, serious concerns about the second strike on that drug boat. Survivors. Under the law of war, this appears to be a war crime. What is your take, and would you demand an investigation? So there's a guy named Daniel Schmachtenberger who has extremely long videos that I watch constantly because I'm a nerd like that. I highly recommend you guys just check out maybe some of his clips. I'm sure there's some clips that are short. He has this thing that he likes to look at called sense making, and it's more relevant today than ever. Basically, the idea is that it is exceedingly difficult to verify what truth is, and how we can, with an unbiased perspective, try to make sense making sense of the facts and what to do about it. So in this case, was there a second strike? I've heard there were 4 strikes. Was there an order that said we're not going to take any survivors, any prisoners? I don't know. Were there any survivors to begin with? You know, some people are claiming that there weren't any. It was was it a Trident missile? I don't remember what type of missile it was supposedly was. And you know, we have the official narrative, we have unofficial narratives, and you have to remember that unless you were there, how do we really know? And that's part of the conundrum we're in. So we're almost bystanders. You know, all we can do is watch this train wreck happen in front of us, and there's nothing that we can do about it, which is the wrong way to think of it. But unless we have people in power that have the ability to force the truth to come out, Sam, I'm sure you have looked up and are familiar with the Gulf of Tonkin incident. It's probably the most famous of all false flag events. Not saying that this was a false flag event, but it just goes to show that the official, and I hate to say narrative, but the official frame of reference for what takes place in an event, especially in wartime, where, you know, the fog of war covers things up and we don't have the ability to know really well what's going on. We just have to rely on the word of the government. And yet, as this particular instance showed, it's not terribly useful sometimes, because the government has many times completely fabricated evidence or made stuff up. So let's just talk about it for what is the most popular or most prevalent narrative, and we'll assume it's true. So assuming it's true that the Secretary of War made a statement that they were not going to take, and somebody correct me for whatever terminology they were saying that he did, but take no prisoners, basically. And then there were survivors following the first missile, and a second one finished them off. I would, based on my knowledge of naval warfare. Now, I'm not a naval person, whatever they called, seaman. I don't really know much about the Navy, but based on my understanding, that would constitute a war crime under the Geneva Conventions. So, yeah, that's troubling. And at the very least, we should say, like, we should have a conversation about it. Say, well, I don't know. Let's talk about it. Let's trot out the various tenets under the Geneva Conventions, and let's look at them and let's discuss it. Instead, we have these people basically saying, no, you don't know anything about the Geneva Conventions. You're just an armchair warrior. You don't know anything about the Navy. There was no second bomb, whatever. We should have discussions about what these things entail and what they might represent as if they were true. Because if they were true, then what do we need to do about it? Should we be concerned as citizenry that our government has declared as terrorists some group? Okay, I'm willing to consider that. I don't necessarily think that's I don't know. I'm not sure how I want to have a discussion about it, because I'm not sure I'm ready to agree that we need to be declaring some narcotics smugglers as terrorists. Maybe we need to create a new category to group these people in. In any case, let's say we agree that we need to declare them as terrorists. But now we have to say, okay, does international law and accepted war rules apply to everybody? The answer, as far as the Geneva Conventions is concerned, and the Rome Conventions and Nuremberg trials and the Rome statutes and all of these other ones that we've had accumulated over the years because of all the atrocities and hell that we've put people through, say without a doubt that yes, these apply to everybody. You can't just go, and that's why they were created, because they were being selectively applied. The rules of war have been in existence basically for all of humanity. Way back in medieval times, they were very clear rules that you would not break, because you knew that if the shoe was on the other foot, then you wanted them to abide by them as well. And so we're just really, really treading a very narrow line here. And if we go over it, I just don't like that direction. And so I think we need to have open discussions. And that I would argue is just yet another issue with why we need to change the paradigm. Wow, paradigm. I like that. Paradigm. The power paradigm. The two parties have a monopoly over our political power, and anytime you have a monopoly, you get poor results. You have high costs. You've got poor quality output, and a entity. If it's a business, they're not going to listen to their customers for the most part, and we have a government that doesn't listen to us, which arguably we're the customers. So we've got some fixing to do, and it starts with you guys. So we got a couple people on. Let's get some more questions. That was a good one. Let me pull up X and see what else is going on. And oh my gosh, I got a ton of notifications. Let's see if we got any good ones here. And I apologize again. We had no questions coming in this time, so call up the Uniparty all you want. I do not agree. Dems, with all their faults, and Republicans are the same. I do not agree. Dems and Republicans are the same. But again, good luck. Okay, I don't know. It doesn't really. Cut big government. Vote Jon Thorp. Yeah, 22. They're talking about this district. It was plus 22 with Trump, and I think the Republican Party truly believed that they could put up any old sock puppet and comfortably win. And I don't think they counted on. And again, here's a perfect example of a monopoly. They are out of touch with the voter base. They're out of touch with the people that they claim to represent, because had they truly represented the people, they would not have, in my opinion, elevated Matt to their position, to their nominee, and they certainly wouldn't have just sat on their laurels and let him do nothing, expecting an easy victory, because the Democrats have enjoyed a 5-seat victory for all. They have won every single one of the special elections this year. This is the 6th, so we'll see how that one's. I don't think they're going to win this one, but they have been really pushing hard and trying to take advantage of that momentum. And there are a lot of people who are upset with both parties for just ignoring them. Look at the Democrats back in just last year when they installed Kamala Harris to replace Biden, who clearly shouldn't have run for re-election. They should have put somebody else up, and then they just throw somebody in to take his place. It's ridiculous. I don't know if that was more ridiculous than them being the DNC, stealing the nomination from what was his name, Bernie Sanders, back in, what was it, 2016, I guess. And so it really splintered the Democrat Party, and they got pissed off, rightfully so. And the Republican Party has kind of been experiencing their own sort of split. You have all these people that came out for Trump expecting him to be MAGA, you make America great, put America first, and golly, certainly seems almost anything but. There aren't any real good comments here. Millions. There have been something like over $7 million spent on this race. So it's a little bit early, but don't have a whole lot of anything else to say other than, again, I don't expect to win tomorrow. And that was never really my point. Despite what the Republicans have been spewing at me, I am not a Soros plant. I am not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal undercover. I'm a constitutionalist. I would certainly lean conservative, and I am happy to go into minute detail on every single policy that I hold, or a policy stance rather. And I would challenge any candidate or any person to come out and just have an open discussion about literally anything. I'm happy to discuss every single one of my stances and my viewpoints. And I'm open to stink bug. I'm open to change my mind. There is certainly possible that we can have a discussion where you present facts that I was unaware of, and I'll change my mind on something. That's no problem. I have no problem whatsoever changing my stance on anything. But again, I started this whole process back in March, long before Mark Green ever announced that he was going to retire early. I had no clue that there was going to be a special election this year. When I filed with the FEC back in March, I filed for the 2026 election, and I fully intend to win the 2026 election. This race has built momentum, built name recognition, and allowed me to fine-tune my own perspective. When I first started, the budget was my number one issue. Now election reform is my number one issue, because I don't think we can fix the budget until we fix the elections. So we gotta prioritize, and can't do it without you guys. If you're in this district, then shoot me an email. Let's figure out somewhere to have some little town halls, backyard barbecues, backyard chat, living room chat, whatever. We got to get this is a grassroots effort, and we got to get word out that we're sick to death of the things as they've been going, and we're ready for something new. So we're going to keep this momentum going. let's find some friends, and yeah, I'll work on being a better politician because I'm not very good at speeches. So appreciate y'all, and shoot me some email later.